Maya's entire world shattered the instant she recognized her husband's hand resting on her sister's pregnant belly in the middle of the upscale restaurant where she worked. What she did next would expose a $5 million corporate crime, send her ex-husband to federal prison, and transform her from a struggling waitress into the CEO's wife who owned her own hotel empire. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. There are moments in life when the ground beneath your feet doesn't just shift, it opens up and swallows you whole. For Maya Chun, that moment came on a Thursday evening at 7:32. In the middle of the dinner rush at Lumiere, one of the city's most prestigious restaurants, she was carrying a tray of champagne flutes, navigating between tables with the practiced grace of someone who had spent 6 years perfecting the art of being invisible to the wealthy. The crystal glasses caught the light from the chandeliers above, casting small rainbows across the white tablecloths. She was thinking about her electric bill, about whether she could pick up an extra shift on Sunday, about the small leak in her apartment ceiling that her landlord refused to fix. She was thinking about anything except the possibility that her entire life was about to detonate. Maya had always been the responsible one. At 29, she had spent most of her adult life taking care of everyone else. When their mother died of cancer 7 years ago, Maya had been the one to hold the family together. She'd dropped out of her junior year of college to work full-time, supporting her father through his grief and ensuring her younger sister Sophia could finish high school without worrying about money. Their father, once a successful architect, had never recovered from the loss. He'd retreated into himself, his passion for design replaced by a quiet, hollow existence. Maya had become the provider, the caretaker, the one who sacrificed her dreams so others could chase theirs. Sophia, 3 years younger, had been the golden child, the one with potential, beautiful, charming, and ambitious. She'd graduated with honors and landed a job at a prestigious marketing firm. Maya had been so proud, had felt that all her sacrifices were worth it when she watched Sophia walk across that graduation stage. And when Maya had met Derek Chun 2 years ago, a kind, hard-working accountant with gentle eyes and a steady job, she'd finally allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have something good too. Derek wasn't wealthy, but he was stable. He worked for a mid-sized firm, brought home a decent salary, and treated Maya like she mattered. After years of being overlooked, of being the supporting character in everyone else's story, she had finally found someone who saw her. They'd married in a small ceremony at City Hall, with Sophia as her maid of honor and her father giving her away with tears in his eyes. It wasn't the fairy tale wedding she'd dreamed of as a girl, but it was real, and it was hers. The first year of marriage had been good. Derek was attentive and supportive. He'd encouraged her to think about going back to school, finishing her degree. They'd started saving, planning for a future that seemed bright despite their modest circumstances. But over the past 6 months, something had changed. Derek had become distant, working late more often, his phone always face down on the table. When Maya asked if something was wrong, he'd kiss her forehead and tell her he was just stressed about work, about a big client his firm was trying to land. She'd believed him because she wanted to, because the alternative was too terrifying to contemplate. Sophia had changed too. They'd always been close despite their different paths in life. Sophia would visit Maya's tiny apartment, bringing expensive wine and stories from her glamorous job. But recently, those visits had become less frequent. When they did see each other, Sophia seemed nervous, distracted. She'd canceled their weekly sister dinners 3 times in the past month, always with elaborate excuses. Maya had worried that Sophia was working too hard, burning herself out in pursuit of success. She'd sent concerned text messages, offered to come over with takeout and a listening ear. Sophia had deflected every attempt. The dinner rush at Lumiere was always chaos dressed in elegance. The restaurant catered to the city's elite, business moguls sealing deals over $1,000 bottles of wine, celebrities seeking privacy in the dimly lit corner booths, society matrons celebrating milestones with 7-course tasting menus. Maya had learned to move through this world like a ghost, efficient and unobtrusive. The wealthy didn't want to see their servers as real people with real lives. They wanted seamless service, an extension of the luxury they paid for. Maya had perfected the art of being present without being seen. She'd been assigned to the main dining room that evening, a sprawling space with soaring ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the glittering cityscape. The maître d', a severe French woman named Colette, ran the front of house with military precision. One mistake, one visible stumble, and you were relegated to the least desirable stations, or worse, let go entirely. Maya couldn't afford to lose this job. The tips at Lumiere were what kept her afloat, what allowed her to send money to her father each month, what gave her and Derek a chance at building something better. She was approaching table 12, a four-top near the window, when she heard the laugh. It was a sound she knew as well as her own heartbeat, the bright, musical laugh of her sister. Maya's head turned automatically, her professional smile freezing on her face as she located the source of the sound. There, At a table in the center of the room, illuminated by the soft glow of candlelight, sat Sophia. But it wasn't just Sophia's presence that made Maya's world tilt, it was the way she looked. Her sister was radiant, dressed in a form-fitting gray dress that hugged curves Maya had never noticed before. And those curves, Maya realized with a jolt of shock, included an unmistakable baby bump. Sophia was pregnant, visibly, undeniably pregnant, at least 5 or 6 months along by the look of it. Maya's mind reeled. Sophia hadn't mentioned a boyfriend, hadn't said anything about a relationship. They'd spoken just 2 weeks ago, a brief phone call where Sophia had claimed to be swamped with work. She'd said nothing about a pregnancy, nothing about impending motherhood. The omission felt like a slap, a rejection. Why would her sister hide something so monumental? But the shock of Sophia's pregnancy paled in comparison to what Maya saw next. Seated across from Sophia, leaning in close with an intimacy that made Maya's stomach turn, was Derek, her husband. He was looking at Sophia the way he used to look at Maya in the early days of their relationship, with tenderness and devotion, with the kind of focus that made the rest of the world disappear. Time seemed to slow down. Maya watched as Derek reached across the table and placed his hand over Sophia's, his thumb stroking her knuckles in a gesture that was achingly familiar. She watched as Sophia smiled at him, a private, knowing smile that spoke of shared secrets and stolen moments. She watched as Derek's other hand reached out, hesitant but hopeful, and rested on the curve of Sophia's belly. The tray in Maya's hands began to shake. The champagne flutes rattled against each other, crystals singing a discordant note. She stood frozen, a statue in the middle of the elegant dining room, watching the two people she loved most in the world betray her in the most fundamental way possible. The baby wasn't just Sophia's, it was Derek's. Her husband had gotten her sister pregnant. The realization crashed over her in waves. The late nights Derek had claimed were work, the distance between them, Sophia's cancellations and nervous evasions. It all made sense now, a horrifying puzzle clicking into place. How long had this been going on? How many times had they been together while Maya had been here, serving strangers, working herself to exhaustion to support their life together? How many times had Sophia sat in Maya's apartment drinking wine and talking about nothing while carrying this devastating secret? Maya didn't remember making the decision to move. Her body acted on instinct, carrying her across the dining room toward table 9, where her husband and her sister sat in their private bubble of happiness. The champagne flutes clinked violently on the tray. Other diners looked up, curious about the disturbance in the carefully maintained atmosphere. Colette shot her a warning glare from across the room, but Maya didn't care. She couldn't care about anything except the fire of betrayal burning through her veins. She stopped at their table. Neither Derek nor Sophia had noticed her approach, too wrapped up in each other to pay attention to the mere waitress navigating the room. It was Derek who looked up first, his eyes meeting Maya's. She watched the color drain from his face, watched him try to pull his hand back from Sophia's belly, but it was too late. Sophia followed his gaze, and when her eyes landed on Maya, they went wide with panic. The silence that fell between the three of them was deafening, a black hole that swallowed all sound. Around them, the restaurant continued its elegant symphony, the clink of silverware, the murmur of conversation, the soft classical music playing through hidden speakers. But at table 9, time had stopped. Maya's voice, when she finally found it, was surprisingly steady. It didn't sound like her own. It sounded like someone else. Someone harder, someone who had been forged in the fires of betrayal. The words came out clear and cold, cutting through the ambient noise like a blade. "That's my husband's child." The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Maya watched as the reality of her statement registered on their faces. Derek's expression shifted from shock to guilt to something that looked almost like relief, as if he'd been carrying the weight of this secret for so long that being caught was almost a mercy. Sophia's face, however, transformed into something Maya had never seen before. A mixture of defiance and shame that made her look like a stranger. The tray in Maya's hands finally betrayed her. The champagne flutes began to slide, and she didn't try to stop them. They crashed to the floor in an explosion of crystal and champagne, the sound so loud in the hushed restaurant that every conversation stopped. Heads turned. The elegant symphony of the dining room screeched to a halt as every eye in the room fixed on the scene unfolding at table 9. Derek stood up so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. "Maya, I can explain." The words were automatic, meaningless. What explanation could possibly exist for them? What combination of words could make sense of the fact that her husband had impregnated her sister? Explain? Maya's voice was rising now, the initial shock giving way to a rage so pure it felt like it might consume her entirely. "Explain what exactly, Derek? Explain how you've been sleeping with my sister. Explain how long you've been lying to. Explain why she's carrying your child while I've been working 60-hour weeks to help pay for our life." Sophia finally found her voice. She stood as well, one hand protectively cradling her belly in a gesture that made Maya want to scream. "Maya, please. Not here. Let's go somewhere private and talk about this like adults." The audacity of the statement nearly knocked Maya over. "Like adults?" she repeated, her voice dripping with venom. "You want to talk about this like adults? Where was that adult consideration when you were sleeping with my husband? Where was that maturity when you were lying to my face week after week?" Colette appeared at Maya's elbow, her voice low and urgent. "Mademoiselle Chun, you need to leave. Now. You're causing a scene." Maya turned to look at the Mater D. This woman who had never once bothered to learn anything about her beyond her ability to carry plates and remember orders. A scene? Maya laughed, and the sound was unhinged even to her own ears. You're worried about a scene? My husband got my sister pregnant. I think that deserves a scene, don't you? Maya, please. Derek reached for her arm, but she jerked away from him as if his touch burned. The movement sent her stumbling backward, her shoes crunching on the shattered crystal. She felt the champagne soaking through her black work shoes, cold and sticky. Don't touch me, she hissed. Don't you ever touch me again. By now, phones were coming out. Maya could see them at the periphery of her vision, the discreet raising of smartphones, the angle of cameras pointed in their direction. This disaster was being documented, would probably be on social media within minutes. The wealthy loved a good scandal, especially one that involved the help losing their composure. Derek looked around at the watching crowd, and Maya saw something shift in his expression. It was embarrassment. He was embarrassed by her lack of control, by the spectacle she was making. Not guilt, not remorseful, embarrassed. That realization hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself. Maya, if you can't be reasonable about this, then there's no point in having this conversation. His voice had taken on a cold, dismissive edge. Sophia and I didn't plan for this to happen. We tried to fight it, but you have to understand, what we have is real. It's not about hurting you. It's about being true to ourselves. The words were like physical blows, being true to themselves, as if their happiness, their authenticity was worth more than the vows he'd made to her, the trust she'd placed in her sister. Maya looked at Sophia, waiting for her to say something, to at least apologize, to show some remorse for the devastation she'd caused. But Sophia's hand remained on her belly, protective and possessive. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Maya. I really am. But Derek and I are in love. We're going to be a family. This baby is coming in 3 months, and we need to figure out how to move forward. Move forward. As if Maya was just an inconvenient obstacle to their happiness, something to be navigated around rather than a human being whose life they'd destroyed. The casual cruelty of it, the absolute lack of understanding about what they'd done, made something inside Maya break. She laughed again, and this time the sound was clearer, sharper. Move forward? She repeated. You want to move forward? Fine. Let me make this easy for you. She pulled her wedding ring off her finger. It came off easily, too easily. She'd lost weight in the past few months, stress and long hours burning through her faster than she could replace the calories. The simple gold band that Derek had placed on her finger 2 years ago in that City Hall ceremony suddenly felt like a shackle she couldn't wait to be rid of. She threw it at Derek. It bounced off his chest and landed on the white tablecloth between them, rolling twice before settling near the remains of their meal. You can have each other, Maya said, her voice steady now, cold as ice. You deserve each other. But I want you to know something. You didn't just betray me, you destroyed the only family I had left. I gave up everything for both of you. College, my dreams, my entire future. I worked myself to the bone so Sophia could have her education, so you and I could build a life. And this is what I get in return. She looked at her sister, really looked at her. The expensive dress, the professional highlights in her hair, the manicured nails resting on that swollen belly. Maya had paid for the college degree that got Sophia that high-paying job. She'd been the one who'd scraped together money for Sophia's interview clothes, who'd coached her through the job application. And Sophia had repaid her by stealing the one thing Maya had that was supposed to be hers alone. I hope it was worth it, Maya said quietly. I hope he's worth it, because you've lost a sister, and I don't think you understand what that means yet, but you will. When you're lying awake at 3 in the morning with a screaming baby, wondering if you made the right choice, wondering if a man who could betray his wife so easily might do the same to you, you'll understand exactly what you've lost. Sophia's face paled, but she didn't respond. Derek looked angry now, as if Maya was the one being unreasonable, as if she was the problem in this situation. We didn't want it to happen like this, he said stiffly, but you were never home, Maya. You were always working, always exhausted. Sophia was there. She understood what I needed. The justification was so predictable, so pathetically typical, that Maya almost felt sorry for him. He actually believed it. Believed that his infidelity was somehow her fault for having the audacity to work hard to support them. You're right, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. How dare I work to pay half our rent? How dare I try to build a future for us? I should have known you'd need someone more available. Someone like my sister. Colette's hand was on her arm now, firm and insistent. Mademoiselle Chun, you need to leave immediately, or I will call security. Maya looked at the Mater D, then at the watching crowd, then back at Derek and Sophia. They were sitting down again, Derek's arm around Sophia's shoulders, united in their betrayal. They would comfort each other after she left, would probably talk about how dramatic she'd been, how unreasonable. They would spin their own narrative where they were the victims of circumstance. Star-crossed lovers kept apart by cruel fate rather than their own selfish choices. I'll leave, Maya said quietly, but not because you're telling me to, because I don't want to spend another second looking at either of them. She turned and walked through the restaurant, her head held high despite the champagne soaking her shoes, despite the broken crystal crunching under her feet, despite the smartphone still pointed in her direction. She didn't look back. She refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. The night air hit Maya like a physical force as she pushed through the restaurant's heavy glass doors. The November wind was bitter, cutting through her thin work uniform and raising goosebumps on her skin. She'd left her coat inside, hanging in the employee locker room, but she couldn't go back for it. She'd rather freeze than walk back through those doors and face the pitying stares, or worse, the entertained smirks of people who'd witnessed her humiliation. She walked without direction, her feet carrying her through streets that blurred together. The city was alive around her, people heading to dinner or shows, couples holding hands, friends laughing as they moved from bar to bar. Everyone seemed to exist in a different world, one where trust still meant something, where family was sacred, where vows weren't just empty words spoken in front of witnesses who didn't care enough to hold you accountable. Her phone had been buzzing in her apron pocket since she'd left the restaurant. She finally pulled it out, seeing a stream of text messages, 3 from Derek, each one progressively more defensive. "We need to talk about this rationally. You're overreact. I'll come by tomorrow when you've calmed down." The audacity of them made her want to throw the phone into the street. There were 2 messages from Sophia. The first said simply, "I'm sorry." The second, sent 10 minutes later, read, "I never meant to hurt you, but I can't help who I love. I hope one day you'll understand." Maya deleted both without responding. What could she possibly say? What words existed to convey the magnitude of this betrayal? She found herself outside her apartment building 90 minutes later. She didn't remember the walk, didn't remember crossing the intersections or waiting at traffic lights. Her body had carried her home on autopilot while her mind tried to process the impossible. She climbed the 3 flights of stairs to her apartment, each step feeling like it required monumental effort. The apartment she shared with Derek was small, a 1-bedroom in a building that had seen better days. But she tried to make it home. There were plants on the windowsill that she'd nursed from tiny seedling, photographs on the walls of happier times. Her and Derek on their wedding day, Sophia visiting last Christmas, her father smiling for once. Every object in this space represented some moment of hope, some belief in a future that had just been revealed as a lie. Maya stood in the doorway, unable to make herself step inside. This place, which had been her sanctuary, now felt contaminated. How many times had Sophia been here while carrying on with Derek? Had they been together in this apartment, in the bed Maya slept in? The thought made her physically ill. She lurched to the bathroom and vomited, her body rejecting the truth as violently as her mind wanted to. When the heaving finally stopped, Maya sat on the cold tile floor, her back against the bathtub. She needed to think, needed to plan. She couldn't stay here. Not tonight, probably not ever again. But where could she go? Her father lived in a nursing home now, his depression and declining health having made independent living impossible. She'd moved him there 8 months ago, another expense added to her already crushing financial burden. She had friends from high school, but they'd drifted apart over the years. Her work schedule and responsibilities leaving little time for maintaining relationships. She was alone, completely, devastatingly alone. The realization settled over her like a heavy blanket, suffocating and inescapable. She'd spent so much of her life taking care of other people that she'd never built a support system for herself. She'd never thought she'd need one. She'd had Derek. She'd had Sophia. They were supposed to be enough. Her phone rang, Derek's name flashing on the screen. She declined the call. It rang again immediately. She declined it again. On the 3rd attempt, she answered. "What do you possibly have to say to me?" Her voice was hoarse from crying and vomiting. "Maya, please. I know you're hurt, but we need to discuss this like adults. We have assets together, a lease. We need to figure out the logistics." Logistics. He wanted to talk about logistics, not about how sorry he was, not about how he destroyed their marriage. Logistics. "Fine," Maya said, her voice flat. "Here's the logistics. I want a divorce. As quickly as possible. You can have everything in this apartment. I don't want any of it. It's all tainted now anyway, Maya. Don't be dramatic. We need to think about this rationally. Maybe we should try counseling, see if we can work through this." The suggestion was so absurd that Maya laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Work through this? You got my sister pregnant, Derek. She's 6 months along. This isn't some one-night mistake. This is a pattern of betrayal. You've been lying to me for months, sneaking around, planning a future with her while I was working to support our marriage. There's nothing to work through." Look, Derek's voice took on an edge of impatience. "I'm trying to be reasonable here, but the truth is, Sophia and I are in love. We're going to be together. We're having a baby. You can either accept that, and we can figure out a civilized way to move forward, or you can make this difficult for everyone." "Make this difficult?" Maya's voice rose. "I'm the one making this difficult? You've destroyed everything, and you have the nerve to act like I'm the problem. You were never home, Maya." Derek's voice was cold now, all pretense of apology gone. "You were always at that restaurant, always exhausted. When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you made an effort with your appearance or tried to be someone I wanted to come home to?" Sophia was there. She listened. She cared about how my day went. She made an effort. The words hit her like physical blows. He was blaming her for working to support them, for being tired from 60-hour weeks, for not being polished and available like Sophia, who had the luxury of a 9-to-5 job and no one else to support. "Get out," Maya said quietly. "What?" "Get out of my apartment. Now. Tonight. Pack whatever you need and go stay with Sophia. I'm sure she has space for you in whatever fancy place her big salary pays for. Maya, be reasonable. It's almost midnight. We can figure out the living arrangements tomorrow." "No, I want you out now. You don't get to sleep in our bed tonight. You don't get to be here when I get home. Pack a bag and leave. Put your key on the kitchen counter. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then fine, if that's how you want it. I'll be gone in an hour. But Maya, you need to think about what you're giving up. I'm willing to be generous in the divorce. I'll make sure you're taken care of. But only if you don't make this ugly. The threat was clear. Cooperate or face financial ruin. It was probably an empty threat. Derek didn't have the resources to hurt her financially. They were both just getting by. But the fact that he'd even suggested that he'd try to use money to control her cooperation in his betrayal made something harden inside Maya. Do whatever you want, Derek. I don't care anymore. Just be gone when I get home. She hung up without waiting for his response. She couldn't go back to the apartment for a few hours. Needed to give him time to pack and leave. She walked to an all-night diner 3 blocks away. The kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting in the pot for hours. She ordered a cup and sat in a corner booth staring out at the dark street. The waitress who brought her coffee was older, maybe in her 50s. With kind eyes, a name tag that read Ruth. She looked at Maya's tear-stained face and work uniform and seemed to understand without needing explanation. Rough night, honey, Ruth asked gently. Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak without breaking down completely. I've been there, Ruth said, topping off Maya's cup even though she'd barely touched it. Whatever happened, whatever's got you looking like the world ended, I promise you it gets better. Might not feel like it now, but it does it? Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ruth smiled, sad but genuine. It does. Not right away. First it gets worse. You're gonna feel like you're drowning, but then one day you wake up and you realize you're swimming. And then you realize you're not just swimming, you're moving forward. And the thing that destroyed you becomes the thing that rebuilt you stronger. Maya wanted to believe her. She wanted to believe that this pain, this absolute devastation, could somehow transform into something bearable. But sitting in that diner at midnight, her marriage destroyed, her sister forever lost to her, her entire life in ruins, she couldn't see how that was possible. She pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. She had $1,700 in her checking account. It was everything she had, 2 months of saved tips and her last paycheck from Lumiere, a paycheck she'd now never received since she'd been fired in spectacular fashion. $1,700 to rebuild an entire life. The enormity of it crashed over her again. She had no job, no family, no home she wanted to return to. She had nothing except the clothes on her back and a bank account that wouldn't last more than a month. She was 29 years old and she was starting over from less than zero. Maya returned to the apartment at 2 in the morning. The key turned in the lock with the same familiar click it always had, but nothing else about this moment felt familiar. She pushed the door open slowly, half expecting Derek to still be there despite his promise to leave. But the apartment was dark and silent. She flipped on the light switch and surveyed the damage. He'd taken his clothes from the closet, leaving empty hangers swinging like skeletal remains. His side of the bathroom counter was cleared. The space where his toothbrush and razor had stood now just blank tile. In the living room, he'd taken his laptop and the gaming console he'd barely used in the past 6 months, too busy with Sophia to bother with his hobbies. The apartment looked ransacked, not by violence but by absence. On the kitchen counter, exactly where she'd told him to leave it, was his key. Next to it was a note written on the back of a takeout receipt. Maya, I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce. Let's try to keep this civil. Derek, no apology, no acknowledgement of the pain he'd caused, just instructions and a plea for civility, as if he was the one doing her a favor. She crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Then she walked through every room of the apartment, methodically gathering anything that reminded her of him. Photos came off the walls. The coffee mug he'd brought back from a work conference went into a box. The throw pillow his mother had given them as a wedding gift joined it. She worked with mechanical efficiency, her emotions locked away behind a wall of sheer determination. If she stopped moving, if she let herself feel, she would shatter completely. In the morning, she had 3 boxes of Derek's remaining belongings stacked by the door and 2 garbage bags full of items she couldn't bear to keep. The wedding photos were in there along with cards from their anniversary and the framed copy of their marriage certificate. She'd kept nothing. If she was starting over, she was starting completely over. She showered, standing underwater so hot it turned her skin red, trying to wash away the feeling of betrayal that had settled into her bones. When she finally climbed into bed, she lay on Derek's side. Her side held too many memories, too many nights of him coming home late with excuses, too many mornings of waking up alone. If she was going to sleep in this bed, it would be on her terms. Sleep didn't come. She lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying the evening on an endless loop. Every detail was seared into her memory with painful clarity. The way Sophia's hand had rested on her belly, the defensive tone in Derek's voice, the phones pointed in her direction, documenting her humiliation for strangers to consume as entertainment. When dawn finally broke, gray and cheerless through the apartment windows, Maya gave up on sleep. She made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, facing the reality of her situation. She'd been fired from Lumiere. That much was certain. Even if Colette had been inclined to give her a second chance, which she wouldn't be, Maya could never go back there. The place where she'd discovered the betrayal would forever be tainted. She opened job search websites and began scrolling through listings. Most of the restaurant positions required references from previous employers. She couldn't use Lumiere, not after last night's spectacular exit. She could potentially reach out to the manager of the diner where she'd worked during college, but that was 7 years ago. Would they even remember her? Her phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Is this Maya Chun? A woman's voice, professional and brisk. Yes, this is Jennifer Park from Park Legal Associates. I'm calling on behalf of Derek Chun regarding divorce proceedings. He's retained our services to handle the dissolution of your marriage. I'd like to schedule a time for you to come into our office to discuss the terms. Maya's hand tightened on the phone. Less than 12 hours since the world had imploded, and Derek already had a lawyer. He'd probably called them from Sophia's apartment last night. The efficiency of it, the calculated speed, made her realize something she'd been too shocked to understand before. This wasn't a sudden passion that had overwhelmed him. This was planned. He'd been preparing for this moment, probably for weeks or months. I'll need to retain my own counsel before I meet with you, Maya said, forcing her voice to remain steady. Of course. Have your attorney contact me when you're ready. I should inform you that Mr. Chun is hoping to resolve this quickly and amicably. He's prepared to offer a reasonable settlement if we can avoid protracted litigation. I'm sure he is, Maya said dryly. Tell Mr. Chun he'll hear from my lawyer. She hung up and immediately felt the panic set in. A lawyer. She needed a lawyer. With what money? The $1,700 in her account wouldn't cover the retainer for any decent divorce attorney. She opened her laptop again and began searching for legal aid services. Pro bono lawyers. Anything that might help someone in her situation. The search was depressing. Legal aid had income requirements she might meet, but the waiting lists were months long. Pro bono services were mostly for criminal cases or situations involving domestic violence. Her situation, as devastating as it was personally, didn't qualify for free legal help. She was too broke to afford a lawyer, but too employed, at least on paper, to get free assistance. A knock on the door made her jump. For a moment she thought it might be Derek, coming back for something he'd forgotten. But when she looked through the peephole, she saw a woman she didn't recognize. Middle-aged, professionally dressed, holding a manila envelope. Maya opened the door cautiously. Can I help you, Maya Chun? I'm a process server. I have documents for you. The woman held out the envelope. Maya took it with numb fingers, signed the delivery confirmation, and closed the door. Inside the envelope were divorce papers. Derek wasn't wasting any time. The petition cited irreconcilable differences and proposed a split of their minimal assets. He wanted the car, which was registered in his name. She could have the furniture and whatever remained in their joint checking account after the bills were paid, which would be almost nothing. There was no mention of spousal support, no acknowledgement that she'd supported him financially during the first year of their marriage while he'd been between jobs. Maya felt something crack inside her chest, not her heart breaking again, but something harder and sharper. It was rage, pure and clean, burning away the grief and self-pity that had consumed her through the night. Derek thought he could just walk away, start his perfect new life with Sophia and their baby, leaving Maya with nothing but broken furniture and trauma. He thought she would just accept it, sign the papers, and disappear quietly. He was wrong. She picked up her phone and called the one person who might be able to help her, even if it meant swallowing her pride. Her college roommate Jessica Tran had gone to law school after graduation. They'd lost touch over the years, Maya's chaotic schedule making it hard to maintain friendships, but Jessica had reached out periodically, sent holiday cards, insisted that they should get coffee sometime. Maya had always been too busy, too tired, too focused on keeping her head above water. The phone rang 4 times before Jessica answered, her voice thick with sleep. Hello, Jess? It's Maya. Maya Chun. There was a pause, then Jessica's voice came back more alert. Maya? Oh my God, it's been forever. Is everything okay? It's 7 in the morning. Maya's carefully constructed composure crumbled. No, she said, her voice breaking. Everything's not okay. I need help. What followed was a 20-minute conversation where Maya laid out the entire horrific story. Jessica listened without interrupting, occasionally making small sounds of sympathy or disbelief. When Maya finished, there was a long silence. That absolute bastard, Jessica finally said, her voice hard. Both of them. That's beyond betrayal. That's sociopathic. I need a lawyer, Jess. He's already retained one. He served me with divorce papers this morning, but I don't have the money for a retainer. Don't worry about the money, Jessica said immediately. I'm not a divorce lawyer, but my firm has a family law division. I'll talk to one of the partners today. We'll figure something out. Can you come to our office this afternoon? Maya felt tears of relief burning her eyes. Yes, thank you. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't need to repay me. That's what friends are for. We should have stayed in better touch. I'm sorry I let us drift apart. That was my fault, not yours. We can assign blame later. Right now, we need to make sure you're protected. Maya, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Don't sign anything Derek sends you. Don't agree to anything verbally. Don't communicate with him except through your lawyer. He's already playing dirty by moving this fast. We need to be strategic. Okay, Maya said, feeling the first small spark of hope since yesterday evening. She wasn't completely alone after all. The offices of Tran and Associates occupied the 20th floor of a gleaming downtown tower. Maya stood in the lobby, feeling acutely aware of her thrift store jeans and worn sweater. Everyone around her looked polished and purposeful, their expensive suits and confident strides marking them as people who belonged in this world of marble floors and hushed professionalism. She didn't belong here. She was a waitress, or she had been until 12 hours ago when her life had exploded. Jessica appeared from the elevator bank, and for a moment Maya barely recognized her. Her former roommate had transformed from the girl in sweatpants cramming for exams into a sophisticated professional. Her black suit was expertly tailored, her hair pulled back in a sleek bun. But when she saw Maya, her expression softened into something achingly familiar. "Maya," she said, pulling her into a tight hug. "I'm so sorry this is happening to you." The kindness nearly undid Maya's fragile composure. She blinked back tears and forced a smile. "Thank you for seeing me so quickly." "Of course. Come on, I've got us set up in a conference room." Jessica led her through security and up to the firm's offices. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city that would have taken Maya's breath away under different circumstances. Today, she barely noticed. A woman was already seated at the long table, reviewing documents on a tablet. She looked to be in her late 40s, with silver-streaked hair and sharp, intelligent eyes behind designer glasses. She stood as they entered, extending her hand. "Maya, this is Patricia Caldwell. She heads our family law division," Jessica said. "Miss Chun, please have a seat." Patricia's handshake was firm, and her gaze assessing but not unkind. "Jessica filled me in on the basics of your situation. I've reviewed the petition your husband filed. Before we discuss strategy, I need to understand the full picture. Walk me through your marriage, your finances, and the circumstances of the affair." For the next hour, Maya laid out everything. The early days of her relationship with Derek, the small courthouse wedding, the first year when she'd been the primary breadwinner while he searched for better opportunities. She explained about Sophia, about the sacrifices she'd made for her sister's education, about the trust that had existed between them until it had been shattered in the most brutal way possible. Patricia took notes, occasionally interrupting with sharp questions. "Did you ever give Derek money for investments or business ventures? Were there any joint credit cards? Did Sophia ever contribute to household expenses when she visited?" Each question felt invasive, but Maya understood they were necessary. "Here's what I need you to understand," Patricia said when Maya finished. "Divorce law is complicated and it varies by state. In our jurisdiction, we have equitable distribution, which means marital assets get divided fairly, not necessarily. The good news is that the burden of proof is on him to show why he should get more than 50% of anything. We don't have much," Maya admitted. "Some furniture, maybe $3,000 in our joint account after bills are paid. The car is in his name. We were always just scraping by. That's actually to your advantage," Patricia said. "Rich people going through divorces fight over portfolios and property. When there's not much to divide, we focus on other leverage points." "Tell me about his job, his income." "He's an accountant at Sterling Financial Group, makes about $75,000 a year. I was making maybe 40 with tips, but that was working 60-hour weeks." Patricia made a note. "And Sophia, what does she do?" "She works in marketing for a tech company. She makes good money, over $90,000, I think. She's always talking about bonuses and stock options." Patricia and Jessica exchanged a look that Maya couldn't quite read. "Interesting," Patricia said. "Tell me, did Derek ever mention any issues at work? Any complaints about his job security or performance?" Maya thought back. "Not really. He said he was working on landing a big client. Some merger deal that would be good for his. He'd been putting in extra hours, or at least that's what he told." The implication hung in the air. Those extra hours had been spent with Sophia, not at the office. "I'm going to make some inquiries," Patricia said, discreetly. "I have a contact at Sterling Financial. If your husband has been distracted by his personal life, there might be professional consequences we can leverage." She turned to her tablet, scrolling through documents. "The petition he filed is bare bone. He wants a quick, clean break. That tells me he's either hiding something or he's overconfident. Possibly both." "What do you mean hiding something?" Maya asked. "Men don't usually move this fast unless they have a reason. He retained a lawyer and filed papers within hours of your confrontation. That's not normal behavior. Most people take at least a few days to consider their options. He's rushing, which means he wants this finalized before something changes. Before the baby comes," Jessica interjected. "Once that child is born, the dynamics shift. Child support, custody arrangements. His obligations get a lot more complicated." Maya felt a cold realization settling over her. He wants to be legally free before he becomes a father, so he can start fresh with Sophia. No messy divorce hanging over them. "Exactly," Patricia confirmed, "which gives us leverage. We don't have to rush. We can take our time, do our due diligence, make sure you get everything you're entitled to. And if he starts getting impatient, if that baby's due date starts approaching and he's still legally married to you, he'll be more willing to negotiate favorably." The strategy felt calculating, using Derek's own timeline against him, but Maya couldn't bring herself to feel bad about it. He'd shown her no mercy, no consideration. Why should she extend him any? "What about Sophia?" Maya asked. "Is there anything legally I can do about her role in this?" Patricia shook her head. "Alienation of affection lawsuits exist in some states, but they're difficult to prove and rarely worth pursuing. The emotional satisfaction might feel good, but it won't get you anything practical. Your focus needs to be on protecting yourself financially and legally." "I understand." Maya felt a weight weight settling on her shoulders. This was really happening. Her marriage was ending, and now it was just a matter of negotiating the terms of that ending as favorably as possible. There's one more thing we need to discuss, Patricia said, her expression serious. Your employment situation. You're going to need income both to support yourself during this process and to demonstrate financial stability. The fact that you were fired, even for justifiable reasons, weakens your position slightly. Do you have any job prospects? Maya shook her head. I've been looking, but most restaurant positions want references. Can't use my last employer. Jessica leaned forward. What about expanding your search? You have years of customer service experience. You're organized. You're good with people. There are other industries that value those skills. Like what? I dropped out of college in my junior year. I don't have a degree. I don't have specialized training in anything except carrying plates and remembering orders. You're underestimating yourself, Jessica said firm. Customer service, hospitality management, administrative work, executive assistance. All of those fields need people with your skill set. You've been managing difficult customers and high-pressure situations for years. That's valuable. Patricia pulled up something on her tablet. Actually, I might be able to help with this. My husband's company is looking for someone to coordinate their corporate hospitality program. It's not glamorous, managing the executive dining room, arranging catering for board meetings, that sort of thing, but it pays decently and it's steady hours. I could put in a word. Maya's heart leapt. I would be incredibly grateful. I can start immediately. Let me make a call. Patricia stood and stepped out of the conference room, her phone already to her ear. Jessica reached across the table and squeezed Maya's hand. See, things are already starting to turn around. I've lost my husband, my sister, my job, and my home, Maya said quietly. I'm not sure one job prospect constitutes things turning around. No, but it's movement in the right direction. And Maya, I know this feels like the end of the world, but Derek was dead weight. You've been carrying him financially and emotionally for years. Once you get through this, once you're not supporting his lazy ass anymore, you're going to realize how much lighter life can be. Maya wanted to believe her. She wanted to believe that this devastation could somehow transform into liberation. But sitting in that conference room with divorce papers burning a hole in her consciousness and the image of Sophia's pregnant belly seared into her memory, it was hard to see past the pain. Patricia returned, a satisfied smile on her face. Good news. My husband wants to meet you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at Meridian Tower. The interview is essentially a formality. If you want the job, it's yours. Relief flooded through Maya. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you. When you're divorced, Patricia said simply, don't let your ex-husband steamroll you. That's thanks enough. Maya arrived at Meridian Tower 15 minutes early, wearing the only professional outfit she owned, a black pencil skirt and cream blouse she'd bought years ago for her wedding dress shopping. She'd paired it with her least worn flats and spent an hour on her makeup trying to cover the dark circles that had become permanent fixtures under her eyes. The building was impressive, all glass and steel, the kind of place that radiated wealth and power. The security guard directed her to the 45th floor. As the elevator rose, Maya tried to calm her racing heart. She needed this job desperately. Her $1,700 wouldn't last long once she started paying for everything herself. The apartment lease was in both their names, but Derek would probably push for her to take it over or break, either way costing her money she didn't have. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area that took her breath away. The space was designed with understated elegance, soft gray walls, modern art, and furniture that probably cost more than her entire apartment. A receptionist with a polished smile directed her to wait, and Maya perched on the edge of a leather chair, her resume clutched in suddenly sweaty hand. Mrs. Chun? A woman emerged from the hallway, tall and efficient, looking in a navy suit. I'm Caroline Murphy, HR Director. Miss Caldwell is ready to see you. Maya followed her through a maze of offices and conference room. Through glass walls, she could see people working at sleek desks, having animated discussions in meeting spaces. The energy here was different from anywhere she'd worked before. These people weren't just going through the motions. They were engaged, purposeful. Caroline stopped at a corner office with a stunning view of the city. M.R. Caldwell. Maya Chun is here. The man who stood to greet her was in his early 50s, with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes behind rimless glasses. He had the same warmth his wife Patricia had shown beneath her professional exterior. Miss Chun, please come in. Have a seat. Can Caroline get you anything? Coffee, water? Once they were alone, James Caldwell settled behind his desk with a smile. Patricia spoke very highly of. She says you have extensive hospitality experience, 6 years in fine dining. Most recently at Lumiere, Maya said, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. I've handled everything from intimate dinners to private parties for up to 50 guests. I'm detail-oriented, excellent under pressure. and I understand the importance of discretion when serving high-profile clients. Patricia mentioned you left Lumiere rather suddenly. Maya had prepared for this question. She'd rehearsed her answer with Jessica last night. There was a personal emergency that required my immediate attention. The circumstances were unexpected, but I've since resolved the immediate crisis and I'm ready to commit fully to a new position. It was technically true, even if it glossed over the spectacular nature of her exit. James studied her for a moment, and she had the uncomfortable feeling he could see right through her carefully constructed explanation. But instead of pressing, he simply nodded. The position we're looking to fill is corporate hospitality coordinator. You'd be responsible for managing our executive dining room, coordinating catering for board meetings and corporate events, liaising with vendors, and essentially ensuring that every hospitality touchpoint reflects well on the company. We entertain clients here regularly, sometimes with very little notice. The role requires someone who can be flexible, creative, and absolutely unflappable. That describes my entire career, Maya said, feeling the first genuine stirring of excitement. At Lumiere, we regularly handled last-minute VIP reservations and special requests. I once arranged a 7-course tasting menu for a Saudi prince with 48 hours notice, and a list of dietary restrictions that filled 2 pages. James laughed. That's exactly the kind of experience we need. The pay is $60,000 annually, plus full benefits, health, dental, vision, and a 401k match. Standard 9-to-5 schedule, though some evening events will require flexibility. Does that work for you? $60,000. It was more money than Maya had ever made, more than she'd dreamed possible without a college degree, and regular hours. No more closing the restaurant at midnight and opening again at 10 the next morning. No more surviving on 4 hours of sleep and surviving on adrenaline and coffee. That sounds perfect, she managed, trying not to let her desperation show. Excellent. Caroline will get you set up with the paperwork. We'd like you to start Monday if possible. That gives you a few days to get oriented and settle in. Patricia mentioned you're going through a difficult personal situation. If you need any flexibility as you navigate that, just let me. We believe in supporting our employees through life's challenges. Maya felt tears threatening again. After the cruelty Derek and Sophia had shown, after the cold dismissal from Lumiere, this kindness felt almost impossible to process. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. I won't let you down. I don't think you will. Please call me James. We're not big on formality here. The paperwork took an hour. Caroline walked her through the benefits package, the employee handbook, the direct deposit forms. Maya signed everything in a daze, still not quite believing her luck. When she finally left the building, she stood on the sidewalk and let herself feel the first real glimmer of hope since Thursday night. She had a job. A good job. She wasn't going to be homeless. She wasn't going to starve. This was the first step toward rebuild. Her phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. James just called. Congratulations. Stop by the office tomorrow. We need to discuss next steps with Derek. Maya was typing a response when another text came through, this one from a number she didn't recognize. Maya, it's Sophia. Please, we need to talk. I know you hate me, and you have every right to, but I need to explain. Can we meet? The audacity of it made Maya's blood boil. Sophia wanted to explain, as if there was any explanation that could justify what she'd done, as if a conversation could somehow heal the wound that would never fully close. Maya's finger hovered over the delete button, but something stopped her. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was the need for closure, or maybe it was the fact that she was finally in a position of power, no longer the desperate woman who'd been publicly humiliated. She had a lawyer, she had a new job, she had options. She typed back, fine, Saturday afternoon, the coffee shop on 5th and Madison. 2 o'clock, come alone. If Sophia wanted to talk, Maya would listen, but on her terms, in a public place, with the upper hand for once in this entire nightmare. The response came back immediately. Thank you, I'll be there. Maya pocketed her phone and started walking. She had 3 days to prepare herself, 3 days to build her armor strong enough to face her sister without falling apart, 3 days to figure out what she wanted to say to the woman who destroyed her life. That night, back in her half-empty apartment, Maya made a list. It was something her mother used to do when life felt overwhelming, breaking down impossible situations into manageable tasks. The list started simple. Find apartment listings in case Derek pushed to break the lead. Research divorce proceeding. Update her resume for her records. Sort through the remaining boxes of Derek's belongings. But as she wrote, the list evolved into something else. It became a blueprint for a new life. Take a cooking class, something she'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Reconnect with old friends she'd lost touch with. Visit her father at the nursing home more often. She'd been so consumed with just surviving that she'd forgotten what it meant to actually live. At the bottom of the list, in letters larger than the rest, she wrote, "Never let anyone make me feel small again." It was a promise to herself. Derek had made her feel inadequate, had blamed her for his betrayal. Sophia had treated her sacrifice as if it meant nothing. Even at Lumiere, she'd been invisible. Just another pair of hands to carry plates. But she was done being invisible. She was done accepting crumbs and calling it enough. Saturday came faster than she expected. Maya arrived at the coffee shop early, claiming a table by the window where she could see Sophia approaching. She ordered a black coffee she didn't intend to drink and waited. At exactly 2 o'clock, Sophia walked through the door. Her sister looked tired. The pregnancy had added a fullness to her face, and there were shadows under her eyes that even expertly applied concealer couldn't completely hide. She was wearing a loose designer dress that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent, her hand resting protectively on her belly as she scanned the room. When her eyes found Maya, she hesitated as if considering turning around and leaving. But she didn't. She walked over, moving with the careful waddle of someone in their 3rd trimester, and stood beside the table. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Maya gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit down before you fall down. I'm angry. Not inhuman." Sophia lowered herself into the chair with visible relief. Up close, she looked even more worn out. "You look good," she said quietly. "Different. I got a new job. Good one." Maya wasn't sure why she felt the need to share that information, but she wanted Sophia to know she wasn't broken. "What did you want to talk about?" Sophia's hands wrapped around the water glass the barista had brought, her fingers trembling slightly. She stared at the table for a long moment before finally meeting Maya's eyes. "I wanted to apologize. I know that's inadequate. I know nothing I say can make this right, but I need you to understand that I never meant for this to happen." Maya leaned back in her chair, her expression carefully neutral. "You never meant to sleep with my husband? Never meant to get pregnant with his child? Exactly which part didn't you mean to happen, Sophia?" "All of it." "None of it, Dots." Sophia's voice cracked. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know that this wasn't some calculated plan to destroy your life. It started as nothing, just conversations, and then it became something I couldn't control." "Conversations," Maya repeated flatly. "You're going to sit there and tell me you accidentally fell onto his dick multiple times because you had nice conversations?" Sophia flinched at the crude language. "It wasn't like that. You were always working, Maya. Always exhausted. When I'd come over, you'd fall asleep on the couch halfway through a movie. Derek and I would end up talking. Just the 2 of us. He was lonely. I was lonely. We understood each other. You were lonely?" Maya's voice was dangerously quiet. "You live in a luxury apartment downtown. You have a 6-figure job and friends and a social life. I was the one working 60-hour weeks trying to keep us all afloat. I was the one who sacrificed everything so you could have your perfect life. And you repaid me by stealing the one thing that was mine." "I know," Sophia whispered. "I know what you gave up for me. That's what makes this so much worse. I owe you everything, Maya. My education, my career, all of it exists because you gave up your dreams. And I betrayed you in the worst possible way. So why are you here? What do you possibly hope to accomplish with this conversation?" Sophia took a shaky breath. "And you truth about Derek, about what kind of man he really is." Maya felt a cold prickle of unease. "He's not who you think he is. He's not the kind, steady man you married. He's manipulative and calculating. And I didn't see it until it was too late." Sophia's hand moved to her belly again, a gesture that seemed more protective than maternal. "When this started, he told me you two were having problems. He said you'd grown apart, that you barely spoke anymore. He made it sound like the marriage was already over and everything but name. That's the oldest line in the Cheater's Handbook," Maya said. "Every man having an affair says his wife doesn't understand him. I know that now. But at the time, I believed him. He was convincing. He said he was going to ask you for a divorce, that he just needed to find the right time. And I was stupid enough to think I was different, that what we had was special." Maya felt a sick twist in her stomach. "When did it start? How long have you been sleeping with my husband?" Sophia looked away. 8 months, 8 months, Maya did the math. That meant it had started in February, right around Valentine's Day. She remembered that day clearly. Derek had brought her flowers and taken her to dinner at an inexpensive Italian place. She'd been touched by the gesture, had felt grateful for his thoughtfulness. Had he been with Sophia that night too? Had he gone from Maya's bed to her sister's? Did he ever, even once, actually plan to leave me? Or was that just a lie to keep you on the hook? He said he would. Every time I asked when he was going to tell you, he had an excuse. Your mom's anniversary was coming up and he didn't want to upset you. You were stressed about work. The timing wasn't right. It was always something. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. And then I got pregnant. And let me guess, suddenly he was thrilled. Ready to play happy family? No. Sophia's voice was bitter. He was furious. He wanted me to terminate the pregnancy. Said we weren't ready, that it would complicate everything. But I couldn't do it, Maya. I know I've made terrible choices, but I couldn't end this pregnancy. Maya felt a strange pang of sympathy before she ruthlessly suppressed it. So you decided to keep it, and that forced his hand. I thought it would. I thought once you knew, once everything was out in the open, we could finally be together proper. But after that night at the restaurant, after you threw your ring at him, he changed. He became cold, distant. He moved into my apartment like I wanted, but he's not really there. He works late constantly. When he's home, he's on his phone. It's like I'm invisible to him. Welcome to my world, Maya said. That's how he treated me for the last 6 months of our marriage. The difference is I didn't know why. You knew exactly what you were getting. I know. I know I have no right to complain. But Maya, I think he's seeing someone else. The words hung in the air between them. Maya stared at her sister, trying to process what she'd just heard. You're telling me that Derek, who destroyed our family to be with you, is already cheating on you? I don't have proof, but all the signs are there. The same ones I was too stupid to recognize when he was cheating on you with me. The late nights, the phone calls he takes in another room, the way he smells like perfume that isn't mine. Maya wanted to laugh. The poetic justice of it was almost too perfect. Sophia had gotten exactly what a man who would cheat on her the same way he'd cheated on Maya. Why are you telling me me this. What do you want me to do about it? I don't want anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I'm not living some perfect happy end, that I'm paying for what I did. Every day I wake up and hate myself a little more. I destroyed my relationship with my sister, the only family I have left besides Dad, for a man who doesn't even want me. You're not getting my sympathy, Sophie. You made your choices. You have to live with the consequences. I know, but there's something else you should know. Something about Derek's job. Maya leaned forward despite herself. What about it? That big client he was always talking about? The merger deal that was going to be so good for his career? It fell through, completely collapsed, and it was his fault. He made a massive mistake in the financial projections. Missed a crucial detail. The client walked away and Sterling Financial lost millions. Derek's boss was furious. Maya felt her pulse quicken. Patricia had suspected Derek might be having professional problems. When did this happen? 3 weeks ago. He's been a wreck ever since. Drinking heavily, barely sleeping. I think he's worried about getting fired. And Maya, there's more. He's been asking me for money. What? He said it was just temporary, that he needed to cover some expenses until things settled down at work. But he's asked 3 times now. Small amounts at first, a few hundred here and there. Last week he asked for $5,000. Maya's mind was racing. Derek was in professional trouble, possibly facing termination. That explained why he was rushing the divorce. If he lost his job, he'd have to disclose that in divorce proceedings. It would affect any calculations about spousal support or division of debts. He wanted to be legally free before his career imploded. Did you give him the money? Sophia nodded miserably. The first few times, yes. But when he asked for $5,000, I said no. We had a terrible fight. He said I owed him, that he'd given up his marriage for me. He made it sound like being with me was some kind of sacrifice he'd made. The manipulation was breathtaking. Derek had played them both, had twisted their guilt and emotions to get what he wanted, and now that his career was falling apart, he was scrambling to secure whatever he could before everything came crashing down. You need to know something, Sophia. Derek's lawyer contacted me. He's pushing for a quick divorce with minimal distribution of assets. He's trying to get out clean before his professional situation becomes common knowledge. And you're his backup plan. He's milking you for money while he looks for his next victim. Sophia was crying now, quiet tears streaming down her face. I know what I did to you, and now karma is destroying me. I deserve all of this, but Maya, I need to tell you something else. Something I found. Maya waited, watching her sister struggle with whatever revelation was coming. I went through Derek's laptop a few days ago. I know it was wrong, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. I found emails, dozens of them. He's been communicating with someone at a rival company, sending them proprietary information from Sterling Financial. I think that's why the merger really fell through. I think Derek sabotaged it deliberately. The implications were staggering. Derek hadn't just made a mistake. He'd committed corporate espionage. If Sterling Financial discovered what he'd done, he wouldn't just be fired. He'd face criminal charge. Maya stared at her sister, trying to process the magnitude of what she'd just learned. Corporate espionage wasn't just grounds for termination. It was a federal crime. If Derek had been selling proprietary information to competitors, he could face prison time, not to mention civil lawsuits from Sterling Financial for damages. Do you still have access to these emails? Maya asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Sophia nodded. I took screenshots. I didn't know what else to do. I thought about going to his company, but I was afraid. If Derek found out I'd betrayed him, I don't know what he'd do. He's been so unpredictable lately. Send them to me. Right now. Sophia pulled out her phone with shaking hands and began forwarding the images. Maya's phone buzzed repeatedly as the screenshots came through. She opened them one by one, her legal training from osmosis, through years of watching courtroom dramas, telling her this was explosive material. The emails were damning, detailed discussions of merger terms, client financials, strategic weaknesses. Derek had sold out his employer for what appeared to be a promise of a lucrative position at the rival firm. Why are you giving this to me? Maya asked, looking up from her phone. This destroys him completely. You're carrying his child. You realize this could send him to prison? Sophia's face was pale but resolute. Because it's the right thing to do. For the first time in 8 months, I'm doing the right thing. He's a criminal, Maya. He's stolen from his company, he's manipulated both of us, and I don't think he's going to stop. If I don't do something now, who else is he going to hurt? What kind of father would he be to this child? She placed both hands on her belly. I made terrible choices. I hurt the person I loved most in the world, but I won't let him continue to destroy lives. It wasn't forgiveness. Maya wasn't ready for that, and might never be. But it was something. A crack in the wall of betrayal that suggested Sophia wasn't beyond redemption. I have to take this to my lawyer immediately, Maya said, standing. Sophia, you need to be prepared. When this comes out, Derek is going to know you're the source. You need to protect yourself. I know. I've already started looking for a new apartment, somewhere he doesn't know about. And I'm documenting everything, every time he asks for money, every fight, everything. If he tries to come after me, I'll have proof of his behavior. Maya picked up her bag, weight of the screenshots on her phone feeling both heavy and empowering. For what it's worth, you did the right thing today. It doesn't fix what you did, but it's a start. She left the coffee shop without looking back, her mind already racing ahead. She called Patricia from the sidewalk. I need to see you. Now. I have something that changes everything. 2 hours later, Maya sat in Patricia's office, watching the lawyer's expression shift from professional interest to shock to barely contained excitement as she reviewed the screenshots. "This is incredible," Patricia said, scrolling through the images on her tablet. "This isn't just leverage for your divorce, this is criminal evidence. Derek Chun is looking at wire fraud, theft of trade secrets, possibly RICO charges if they can prove a pattern. Sterling Financial's legal team will destroy him. What does this mean for my divorce?" Maya asked. "It means we hold all the cards. Derek can't afford to drag this out. If Sterling finds out what he's done before the divorce is finalized, any assets he has will be frozen pending litigation. He'll be lucky if he's not bankrupt within 6 months. We use this to get you the best possible settlement, and we do it fast before his financial situation deteriorates." Jessica, who joined them, leaned forward. "There's more to consider. If Maya reports this to Sterling Financial, they'll be grateful. Very grateful. This kind of information could help them mitigate damages, possibly recover losses. They might be willing to compensate her for coming forward." "You mean they'd pay me for exposing Derek?" Maya asked. "It's not uncommon in corporate espionage cases. Whistleblowers often receive rewards, especially if the information prevents ongoing damage. Sterling Financial lost millions on that merger. If your evidence helps them understand why and potentially recover those losses, you could be looking at a substantial compensation package." Maya's head was spinning. 24 hours ago, she'd been terrified about how she'd survive financially. Now she was discussing potential windfalls from exposing her ex-husband's crimes. "There's one more thing to consider," Patricia said, her expression serious. "Sterling Financial is a major player. The executive team is well-connected and influential. If you help them, you'll have powerful allies. That's not nothing in this city. I don't care about making connections," Maya said. "I care about justice. Derek used me, betrayed me, and then tried to steamroll me in the divorce. He deserves to face consequences." "Then let's give him consequences," Patricia said with a sharp smile. "I'm going to contact Sterling's general counsel. We'll arrange a meeting. In the meantime, I'll have our IT specialist verify these screenshots, make sure they'll hold up to scrutiny. And Maya, don't contact Derek. Don't respond to his texts or calls. Let him think everything is proceeding according to his plan." That night, Maya lay in bed staring at the ceiling, processing the day's revelations. Her phone buzzed with another text from Derek. "My lawyer says you're stalling. Let's be adults about this. Sign the papers so we can both move on." The arrogance of it made her smile. Derek had no idea what was coming. He thought he was in control, thought he could dictate terms and waltz away unscathed. He was about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating people. Monday morning arrived, and with it, Maya's first day at her new job. She dressed carefully in a navy suit Jessica had helped her pick out over the weekend, styled her hair, and presented herself as someone confident and capable. The woman who walked into Meridian Tower that morning looked nothing like the broken waitress who'd fled Lumiere in tears less than a week ago. James Caldwell met her in the lobby personally, a gesture that surprised her. "Maya, welcome to your first day. I thought I'd give you the tour myself, let you see the full scope of what you'll be managing." The corporate hospitality space was impressive. There was an executive dining room with seating for 30, elegantly appointed with modern art and a stunning view, a smaller private dining room for intimate meetings, a full catering kitchen staffed by professional chefs, and a coordination office where Maya would plan and execute every detail. "Our previous coordinator left to have a baby," James explained as they walked. "She set up excellent systems, but we need someone who can think on their feet and handle unexpected situations with grace. Patricia told me about your background. I think you're going to be perfect for this." Maya met the catering staff, the executive assistants she'd be coordinating with, the facilities managers. Everyone was welcoming and professional. By lunchtime, she was already handling her first task, arranging a last-minute lunch meeting for the board of directors scheduled for the next day. She was reviewing menu options with the head chef when James appeared in the doorway. "Maya, do you have a moment? There's someone I'd like you to meet." She followed him to a conference room where a man stood looking out the window, his back to them. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. When he turned, Maya felt her breath catch. He was striking, not handsome in a conventional way, but compelling. Sharp features, dark hair with distinguished silver at the temples, and eyes that seemed to assess everything in a single glance. He looked to be in his mid-40s, with the kind of presence that commanded attention without effort. "Maya Chun, this is Alexander Hayes. He's the CEO of Hayes Industries and one of our most important clients." "Alexander, this is Maya, our new hospitality coordinator." Alexander Hayes extended his hand, and when Maya shook it, she felt an unexpected jolt of awareness. His grip was firm, his gaze direct and intelligent. "Miss Chun, pleasure to meet you. James speaks very highly of you." "We've only just met this morning," Maya said, surprised. "Patricia Caldwell is a friend," Alexander said with a slight smile. "She mentioned you were starting here today." Small world. There was something in the way he looked at her. Not inappropriate, but intensely focused, as if he was seeing past the professional exterior to the person beneath. "Alexander has a major conference scheduled for next month," James said. 50 executives, 3 days of meetings and entertainment. It's one of our biggest events of the year. I thought you should sit in on the planning. The planning meeting lasted 2 hours. Maya took detailed notes as Alexander Hayes outlined his vision for the executive conference. He was exacting in his requirements, but not unreasonable, and she found herself impressed by his strategic thinking. He didn't just want a conference. He wanted an experience that would inspire his leadership team and position Hayes Industries for its next phase of growth. I trust you'll handle this personally, Alexander said as the meeting concluded, his dark eyes fixed on Maya. James tells me you have a gift for creating memorable experiences. I'll make sure everything exceeds your expectations, Maya replied, meeting his gaze steadily. A month ago, she would have been intimidated by someone like Alexander Hayes. Now, after everything she'd survived, she found she wasn't afraid of powerful men. And after he left, James touched her shoulder. You did well. Alexander's a tough client. The fact that he asked for you specifically to manage his event is significant. He doesn't even know me, Maya said. Patricia really did speak highly of you. And Alexander has good instincts about people. He wouldn't have requested you if he didn't see something worth investing in. The week passed in a blur of menu planning, vendor meetings, and logistics coordination. Maya threw herself into the work, grateful for the distraction from the impending confrontation with Derek. Patricia had scheduled a meeting with Sterling, Financial's general counsel, for Friday afternoon. Maya would present the evidence, and then the consequences would begin. Friday arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of late November day that felt like a gift. Maya dressed in her best suit, the armor of professionalism she'd learned to wear. At 3 o'clock, she walked into Sterling Financial's downtown headquarters with Patricia and Jessica flanking her like bodyguards. The general counsel, Richard Morrison, was a silver-haired man in his 60s with a reputation for being ruthless in defense of his company. He listened in stony silence as Patricia presented the evidence, reviewing each screenshot methodically. Where did you obtain these communications? He finally asked, his voice carefully neutral. From a confidential source who has direct access to M.R. Chun's personal devices, Patricia said. The source is willing to testify if necessary, but we'd prefer to keep their identity protected. The source is the woman he's been having an affair with, Jessica added. She discovered the evidence and brought it forward because she believed it was the right thing to do. Richard's expression remained unreadable. And what exactly do you want from Sterling Financial in exchange for this information? Protection for my client during divorce proceedings, Patricia said. Emmer Chun has been attempting to rush through a divorce settlement that would leave Miss Chun with virtually nothing. We want Sterling to freeze any bonuses, stock options, or other compensation that Mr. Chun might try to claim before his termination. We also want Sterling to pursue full criminal prosecution. No plea deals, no quiet resignation. Full accountability, that's all? Richard asked, one eyebrow raised. You're not seeking financial compensation? If Sterling chooses to offer compensation for the information, my client won't refuse it, Patricia said smoothly. But our primary concern is ensuring that M.R. Chun faces appropriate consequences for his actions. Richard stood and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. The silence stretched for a full minute before he spoke. Derek Chun has been with Sterling for 6 years. We trusted him with sensitive information, promoted him, gave him access to our most important clients, and he betrayed that trust in the most fundamental way. He turned back to face them. The Meridian merger that fell through last month, that deal was worth $5 million in fees to our firm. We lost it because someone leaked our strategy to the competition. We've been investigating internally, trying to find the source. You've just handed us the answer, $5 million. Maya felt the weight of that number settle over the room. We will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, Richard continued. Wire fraud, theft of trade secrets, breach of fiduciary duty, every charge we can make stick. Mr. Chun will never work in finance again. And yes, Miss Chun, we will compensate you for bringing this to our attention. Our standard whistleblower compensation is 10% of recovered damages. If we can prove direct losses of $5 million, you're looking at $500,000. Maya felt the room tilt. $500,000. It was more money than she'd earned in 10 years of waitressing, more than she'd ever imagined having. There's one condition, Richard said, his gaze sharp. This stays confidential until we've secured all the evidence we need. Miss Chun can't know you're the source. If he suspects, he'll destroy evidence, flee, make our case harder to prove. Can you agree to that? Yes, Maya said, finding her voice. Absolutely. Good, we'll move quickly. I'd estimate we'll have him in custody within 72 hours. In the meantime, my advice is to proceed with your divorce as if nothing has changed. Don't give him any reason to suspect what's coming. They left Sterling Financial in a daze. On the sidewalk, Jessica grabbed Maya's arm. Do you understand what just happened? You're about to be a half-millionaire. Your ex-husband is going to prison. This is the definition of justice. But Maya didn't feel triumphant. She felt hollow, exhausted by the sheer weight of everything that had happened in less than 2 weeks. Her marriage had ended, her sister had betrayed her, and now she was complicit in destroying a man she'd once loved, even if he deserved it. I need a drink, she said quietly. They went to a wine bar 3 blocks away, claiming a quiet booth in the back. Over an expensive Pinot Noir that Jessica insisted on buying, Maya let herself feel the full scope of her emotion. Relief that she wouldn't be destitute. Grief for the life she'd thought she was building. Anger at Derek for being so stupid and cruel. And underneath it all, a small, growing spark of something that felt like hope. You know what the best part of this is? Jessica said, refilling Maya's glass. You didn't set out for revenge. You were just trying to survive your divorce, and then the universe handed you the means to completely destroy him. That's karma. Sophia handed me the means, Maya corrected. I never would have known about any of this if she hadn't come forward. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive her? Maya considered the question. I don't know. Maybe not for sleeping with Derek, but for this? For having the courage to do the right thing even when it meant exposing the father of her child. That means something. It doesn't erase what she did, but it complicates it. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Miss Chun. This is Alexander Hayes. I hope it's not inappropriate, but I wanted to thank you personally for the excellent work you're doing on the conference planning. If you're free, I'd like to take you to dinner next week to discuss some additional ideas I have. Purely professional, of course. Maya stared at the message, her pulse quickening. Alexander Hayes wanted to have dinner with her. The CEO of one of the most successful companies in the city was asking her out, even if he was framing it as business. Who is it? Jessica asked, noticing her expression. A client. He wants to have dinner to discuss an event. Jessica grabbed the phone and read the message. Her eyes widened. Alexander Hayes? The Alexander Hayes? Maya, do you know who this man is? James introduced us. Planning a big conference. He's one of the most eligible bachelors in the city. He's been on the cover of Forbes 3 times, and he's asking you to dinner. Jessica handed back the phone. You're saying yes, it's too soon. I'm not even divorced yet. It's a business dinner. And even if it becomes something more eventually, so what? You don't owe Derek anything. You don't owe anyone anything except yourself. Maya typed out a response. I'd be happy to discuss the conference over dinner. When works for your schedule? The response came back within seconds. Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock. I'll send a car. The weekend passed in a strange state of suspended animation. Maya worked on Alexander's conference, visited her father at the nursing home for the first time in weeks, and tried not to think about what was happening behind the scenes at Sterling Financial. Derek texted her twice. Both messages, variations on the same theme. Signed the divorce papers. Stop stalling. She ignored them both. Monday morning, she arrived at work to find James waiting by her office. His expression was serious. Maya, I need to prepare you for something. There's going to be a lot of attention on you over the next few days. Sterling Financial is preparing to make an arrest. The news will break soon, and people will connect you to the situation. Are you ready for that? I don't know, Maya admitted, but I don't have a choice. This needed to happen. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. It takes courage to do the right thing when it costs you something. You could have stayed quiet, taken Derek's settlement, moved on. Instead, you chose justice. Tuesday morning, Maya woke to her phone exploding with notification. She grabbed it groggily and saw headlines flooding her news apps. Sterling Financial executive arrested for corporate espionage. $5 million fraud case rocks financial district. Accountant faces federal charges in merger sabotage. She opened one of the articles and saw Derek's photo, the professional headshot from his company profile. He looked confident, successful, completely unaware that his world was about to implode. The article detailed the charges: wire fraud, theft of trade secrets, conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. If convicted on all counts, he faced up to 20 years in federal prison. Her phone rang. Patricia's name flashed on the screen. Have you seen the news? The lawyer asked without preamble. I'm looking at it now. Sterling moved faster than expected. They arrested him at his office yesterday afternoon, walked him out in handcuffs in front of his colleagues. It's already all over social media. Maya, you need to prepare yourself. Your name hasn't been released as the whistleblower, but people will make connections. Derek's lawyer will try to paint you as vindictive, claim you fabricated evidence to hurt him in the divorce. Let them try, Maya said, surprised by the steel in her own voice. I have the truth. That's all I need. Single quotes. The day was surreal. Maya went to work and tried to focus on planning Alexander's conference, but the news kept interrupting. Colleagues who didn't know her connection to the story discussed it in the break room. Can you believe someone would be that stupid? His career is over. I heard he was having an affair too. What a mess. She kept her head down and did her work. By 5 o'clock, she was exhausted from the effort of maintaining normalcy. She went home, showered away the tension of the day, and dressed carefully for dinner with Alexander. She chose a simple black dress, elegant but not overtly formal, and minimal jewelry. When the car arrived at 6:45, she was ready. The restaurant was La Bernardine, one of the most exclusive dining establishments in the city. Maya had served people who ate here regularly, but she'd never imagined she'd walk through its doors as a guest. The maitre d' greeted her by name and escorted her to a private table where Alexander was already waiting. He stood as she approached, his smile genuine and warm. Maya, you look lovely. Thank you for making time for this. Thank you for the invitation, she replied, settling into her chair. The view from their table overlooked the city, lights beginning to twinkle as dusk settled over the skyline. I'll confess something, Alexander said once they'd ordered. This isn't entirely about the conference. Maya's heart skipped a beat. No? I've been following your story. Not in a intrusive way, he added quickly, seeing her expression. Patricia's a good friend. She told me what you've been through these past weeks, what you're still going through. The arrest made the news today, Maya said quietly. I saw. I can't imagine what you're feeling. Maya considered the question. What was she feeling? Relieved, she said finally. Derek thought he could use me and discard me without consequences. He thought I was weak, that I'd just accept whatever scraps he offered. He was wrong. You're not weak. Anyone who could survive what you've survived and come out fighting is the opposite of weak. They talked through dinner, the conversation flowing as Holly from conference logistics to broader topics. Alexander told her about building his company from nothing, about the failures and setbacks that had shaped him. Maya found herself opening up about her mother's death, her decision to sacrifice her education for Sophia, the years of working herself to exhaustion. You gave up your dreams for other people. Alexander observed. What were those dreams? If you could do anything now, what would it be? The question caught Maya off guard. No one had asked her that in years. I wanted to study hospitality management, she said slowly. Not just serving food, but creating experience. Understanding the psychology of service, the art of making people feel valued. I wanted to run my own boutique hotel someday, something small and perfect. That's still possible, Alexander said. You're 29. You have a new job that's giving you exactly the kind of experience you need. In 5 years, with the right planning and the windfall from Sterling, you could absolutely make that dream real. The idea settled over her, warm and possible. She could go back to school. She could finish her degree. She could build something that was entirely hers. I'm getting ahead of myself, Maya said with a self-deprecating laugh. First, I need to finalize my divorce and figure out how to exist in a world where my sister and I will never have the relationship we once did. Have you spoken to her since the arrest? She called this morning. I didn't answer. I don't know what to say to her yet. Alexander reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The gesture was gentle, not presumptuous. There's no timeline for healing. You'll know when you're ready. The touch sent warmth through her. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. Interest, but more than that, respect. He saw her as an equal, not a project to fix or a victim to save. I should be honest with you, Maya said softly. I'm not looking for a relationship right now. My life is too complicated, too unstable. I'm not asking for a relationship, Alexander replied. I'm asking for the possibility of one, eventually, when you're ready. I'm a patient man, Maya, and I think you're worth waiting for. The drive home felt like floating. Maya leaned her head against the car window, watching the city pass by in a blur of light and shadow. For the first time since that horrible Thursday evening at Lumiere, she felt like herself again. Not the broken, betrayed woman, not the vengeful ex-wife, just Maya, a woman with a future that was hers to shape. 3 months later, Maya stood in a courtroom as a judge finalized her divorce. Derek wasn't present. He was in federal custody awaiting trial, his bail denied due to flight risk. His lawyer had tried to contest the terms, claiming Maya had orchestrated his arrest to gain leverage, but the evidence was overwhelming, and the judge had dismissed the objections with barely concealed contempt. The settlement was more favorable than Maya had dared hope. She received half of their minimal marital assets, and Derek was ordered to pay her legal fee. More importantly, she was free. Legally, finally, completely free. Outside the courthouse, Jessica and Patricia waited for her. How does it feel? Jessica asked. Like I can breathe again, Maya said honestly. The whistleblower compensation from Sterling Financial had come through the month before. $500,000 deposited into an account Maya had opened specifically for this purpose. She'd paid off all her debts, set aside money for her father's care, and enrolled in online courses to complete her bachelor's degree in hospitality. The rest sat in investments, growing steadily, a foundation for the future she was building. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. Dinner tonight to celebrate? They'd been seeing each other casually for the past month, taking things slowly. He'd been true to his word, patient and respectful, letting her set the pace. Yes, she typed back. I'm officially a free woman. The response came immediately. Then let's really celebrate. I have something I want to show you. That evening, Alexander took her to a building in the historic district. It was beautiful. A 4-story brownstone with elegant proportions and original architectural details. It just came on the market, he said, handing her a brochure. I know you said you wanted to run a boutique hotel someday. I thought you might want to see what's possible. Maya walked through the building in a daze. It was perfect, exactly the right size and exactly the right neighborhood. The price tag was beyond her reach, but not impossibly so. With her settlement, her savings, and a reasonable business loan, she could actually afford this. Why are you showing? She asked, her voice trembling. Because I believe in you. Because I want to invest in your dream. Not financially, he added quickly. You don't need my money. But as a mentor, as a partner, in whatever capacity, you'll have me. You've spent your whole life making other people's dreams come true, Maya. It's your turn now. 6 months after that terrible Thursday night, Maya Chun stood in her own boutique hotel, watching as workers hung the sign above the entrance, the Phoenix House. It was a promise to herself, a symbol of rising from the ashes of her old life into something new and entirely her own. Sophia had reached out the week before. A tentative email asking if they could talk. Maya had agreed to coffee, taking the first small step towards something that might eventually become forgiveness. It would never be what it was, but it could be something else, something honest and hard-won. Derek would spend the next decade in federal prison. The $5 million deal he'd destroyed had ended his career and his freedom. Maya didn't feel joy at his downfall, but she felt justice. He'd underestimated her, dismissed her, tried to erase her. Instead, she'd risen higher than he ever would. Alexander came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Ready for your grand opening next month? Terrified, Maya admitted. And excited, and so grateful. You did this yourself. I just showed you the building. But it was more than that. He'd shown her that she deserved good things, that her dreams mattered, that she was worth investing in. In 6 months, he'd become her partner in every sense, the man who saw her potential and helped her see it too. As the sun set over the city, casting golden light across her new beginning, Maya thought about the waitress who'd served coffee to an unfaithful husband in an expensive restaurant. That woman had been invisible, disposable, easily discarded. The woman standing here now was none of those things. She was a business owner, a survivor, a phoenix who'd risen from ashes to build an empire of her own, and this was only the beginning.